Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brom and Parry's second podcast.
This
two. This is second live podcast. We've done many before, but this is our second on YouTube. So thank you for tuning in, Paul.
We hope you enjoyed the first show. There's been a little bit of movie news to discuss since our first original podcast. We're going to go through a list and update you with what we've been notified by. The first news is something that doesn't really interest Rob because he hasn't seen Sinister, but due to the success of Sinister Part 1, we're going to get a Sinister Part 2. How it's going to continue from the first one, given that not many original cast members from the first film survive, I don't know, but we're going to get a Sinister 2 whether we like it or not.
I will try and watch Sinister 1.
Regarding Sinister, the creative team behind Sinister 1, the director C. Robert Cargill and director Scott Derrickson, just on a minor note, whilst they've got Sinister 2 in development, no word yet whether Scott Dickinson will direct, but he's actually now been earmarked to direct the Deus Ex computer game adaptation, so I don't know who's going to be directing Sinister 2. But I think the guy that wrote the screenplay, Massaworm, to some of you on Ain't It Cool News, he's going to be writing the sequel, I believe, but the director of the first one won't be. But the writer and director team of Sinister will be writing and creating the Deus Ex adaptation movie of the popular computer game series. Okay, more movie news, something that you are quite excited about, Evil Dead 4?
Yeah, well, Sam Raimi has announced his interest in, is it official?
Apparently he's been on the circuit promoting Oz, the Great and Powerful, and people have been asking him questions regarding not just the new Evil Dead movie that we're going to get next month, which is like a more of a gruey remake of the first Evil Dead film, but he's been asked if there's any chance of having Ash back, Bruce Campbell, in a sequel to Army of Darkness, and apparently he said he's writing with one of his brothers now to try and get it out.
Yeah, I mean, I had no interest really in the remake. I don't see the point. Something I'll try and catch at a later date, of course, but but I think it's quite interesting because in this day and age, you know, they could just try and they have made a remake, like a reboot. But I like that Sam is trying to actually bring back some of the golden age of it all. Of course, as Paul and I was discussing before, if Bruce Campbell is not involved, then should it really happen? And in my opinion, I'm sure Paul's probably not, because you know Bruce Campbell was
Evil Dead.
Yeah, he was the definitive character. You know, I mean, any single picture you don't see pictures anymore apart from the girl coming out of the ground. You know, of showing the Evil Dead, it's always got Bruce Campbell somewhere or other in the picture, and I'm hoping that if the script does have Ash in it, then I can't see Bruce Campbell not saying no to it, because you know he's a man who's always loved the franchise.
Not much has been said about the script development, because there are two versions of the Evil Dead Army of Darkness. There's one where Ash is back in the supermarket at the end telling the story of him saving the people he meets in Army of Darkness, but there's also like a director's cut ending where he sleeps, he takes drops and he sleeps and he oversleeps and he wakes up in an apocalyptic future. From what we've read, the story of Evil Dead 4 will continue from the director's cut version where Ash oversleeps and he finds himself in a deadite overrun post-apocalyptic future.
I remember that when I was looking into more information regarding World War Z, and talking about just you know demon zombie films in general, and I actually was scanning through some forums and actually realised that Army of Darkness is actually not really amongst Evil Dead fans, it's actually the lesser of the trilogy.
I never liked it,
and I thought it was an okay film. I mean, I'm not a massive Evil Dead fan. I've watched them all. I thought they're more fun than anything. I think they're really slapstick. I don't think they're meant to be taken seriously ever. But there is a pride amongst those movies that I think Sam is really proud of, which is I'm sure the reason why he's going back, or hopefully going back. But no, I was quite surprised to see. I always believed that Army of Darkness was a popular movie amongst the fans of Evil Dead, but I've clearly misinformed myself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Evil Dead 2. I love it. Dead by Dawn, it's one of my favourite movies. And I think when I went to see Army of Darkness 3, they tried to make it a little bit more commercial. And there was all the gruery and all the cheap and nasty stuff had kind of been removed to try and make a proper feature movie. And it kind of threw me a little bit, and I didn't appreciate that. I still like it because it is more action, it has some good lines, and there are moments of it good, but you can see where the budget ran out in Army of Darkness, where he's tried to do Ray Harryhausen style zombie skeleton animation, but then runs out of budget towards the end with the big battle, and then you just see people running in skeleton suits, and it just looks not very good at all.
It looks very Jason and the Argonauts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, I mean, can you really compare those two films together? Not really at all, but it could be interesting.
But now he's got a bit more clout and a bit more finance, so if he does make an Evil Dead 4 movie, I'd imagine he might want to try and go back to a bit more of the gruiness of Evil Dead 2, but he'll have a bit of budget to do it with than he did with Evil Dead 3.
There is quite a lot to be admired with Sam Raimi, because because the man can go from making a Spiderman franchise with Marvel to go making Drag Me to Hell,
which I like very much.
Working with Disney, making Oz, and then going back to Evil Dead.
We don't want to come across as somebody who's like really like anal about comic book movies, but at the moment they are kind of the big deal out there in Hollywood. It just seems to be like so Hollywood movies are very, very based on comic books, especially after the success of the Avengers and the expected success of Superman, and we've got Kick-Ass coming. So a lot of the news that we report to you tend to be of the ilk of superhero stuff. Big news this week is the Days of Future Past, X-Men First Class Part 2. That's getting ever nearer to going into production. As you will no doubt be aware, they're trying to bring back a lot of the old cast members. So when the James McAvoy and the Michael Fassbender characters go into the future to the 70s, they're going to be meeting their future selves, Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart, what have you. And rumour this week is that Halle Berry is 90% certain of returning to the part of Storm. This might not be the most interesting news, but from a fan point of view, I'd rather see her come back than be recast or omit the character completely, because Storm is a very integral part of the X-Men team. Although Halle Berry again isn't the most popular actress to have appeared in the X-Men films, I think for continuity, and if you're going to try and bring back the band together, you may as well try and get her back together as well.
I mean, the thing with X-Men is, are they really, there's obviously a lot of characters in the story regarding X-Men. X-Men is like an Avengers, and in itself, and I think with part of me is a bit worried how they're bringing back so many people for one film. If they were spreading it over a couple of films, then possibly. I'm sure they will, because Days of Future Past will be a success. There's no doubt about that. But I really want them to concentrate more, not just bringing back everybody, but making sure the story's in place. Because we have to remember, Matthew Vaughn is not a part of this film.
He's producing, isn't he?
Producing, but he's produced many films, he produced Guy Ritchie's Snatch and Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels.
And he's going to be producing the new Fantastic Four reboot.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
So for me, you see, without him behind the camera, with this big cast, you've got to really hope. I know Bryan Singer is the man behind it. And for me, Bryan Singer's not made a good film in years. And the last great film I think he made was, I'm sure for Paul, it was X-Men, but for me it was actually Apt Pupil back in the 90s. But then again, those two together, it could prove to be vital and excellent. But I don't know. There's just too much, I think, going on in that film at the moment. There just seems to be a lot, too many characters. Well,
apparently the rumour is that Bryan Singer's very, very unhappy with Brett Ratner's X-Men Last Stand, and the opportunity to do a time travel story allows him in some ways to eradicate the events of the X-Men Last Stand. I think that's what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to consign X-Men The Last Stand to history, into the trash can. So by doing all of this time travel malarkey, bringing back Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry, and the other original X-Men cast members, Ellen Page and Anna Paquin, I think he's just trying to maybe tell a story that allows him to then go back to his proposed Part 3 before he left the franchise initially to do Superman Returns, which was an awful film, by the way.
Quentin Tarantino likes Superman Returns. Big fan, apparently.
Can't stand it. Also, big news, Gary Oldman, a favourite of anyone that enjoys movies, apparently he signed up to be a human resistance leader in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes sequel.
Loved the Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Sorry, I thought it was a really original movie. It was, it was meant to be a reboot to sort of get the franchise back to scratch after Tim Burton's not very good remake of the original film. But no, I think it's good news. I mean, Gary, like you say, Paul, anybody that has Gary Oldman in their film has got to feel quite confident about the script, because Gary Oldman is an excellent actor. He's never really starred in bad films. I mean, I don't think he's in talks to be the lead in the sequel.
It's like an ensemble cast, with him being the leader of.
But
Humans.
I certainly think it's in after losing James Franco to the sequel. I think it's a step in the right direction in casting. Most certainly.
More Marvel news, something that might not interest you an awful lot, Rob, is that recently the word on the curb was that the Marvel universe with the Avengers were going to line up the Incredible Hulk to have his own movie. After the Avengers 2 was supposed to finish, the idea was that the Hulk was going to be out of control. He was going to be banished to another planet where he was forced to fight to the death in a gladiatorial arena. He then eventually comes back to Earth as the villain who the Avengers would have to fight. Now, this was a proposed idea that would cover the Avengers 2 up until the Avengers Part 3. But we've been told that this story, based on the Planet Hulk popular comic book storyline, is not going to happen. It's 1000% inaccurate, we've been told. Apparently Marvel aren't interested in doing this story, or not yet anyway. They've got Mark Ruffalo signed up to a 6-picture deal. Now, if they were to go along the lines of the Planet Hulk story, it would mean that the Hulk would always be the Hulk in his animated CGI form, which would make basically Mark Ruffalo redundant. And apparently they're quite happy with Ruffalo playing Banner, so we're going to see a lot more Banner and Hulk, rather than Hulk being banished and just being Hulk-centric.
I mean, the thing is because that story, the story that's told me, I mean, I think it would look great on screen, obviously, but I don't think it would only go to the audience of comic book fans.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And that could be a possibility of why they've not actually, they don't want to make that film just yet.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it looks good on paper, but on the screen does it look good? It would look good, but would it get the audience? I don't think it would compared to, say, the Avengers. You may not understand what the point I'm trying to get across is, but that, it's basically what I'm trying to say is that that as much as that Planet Hulk story sounds fantastic, I just don't think that some people would understand it from outside of a comic, to an audience who aren't familiar with comic books.
Sure.
Someone like me, for example, I would love to see it, of course, because I'm a film fan. But to someone, an average film goer, they wouldn't probably want to see it. They'll be thinking, what on earth is going on in this? But I'm a big fan of Ang Lee's original Hulk. It's different. And I like that. I like it when they, when a director is willing to take a character from a famous story like the Hulk and put it in a very uncomfortable position, and because it's different, I mean, fair enough, it's not fantastic, but I thought it was a really interesting piece. Edward Norton, I thought, did a very good job in the Incredible Hulk. I think it sits well in the Marvel universe, film wise, and as much of a fan I'm not of the Avengers movie, I did like Mark Ruffalo's take on the Hulk, and he was the best character in the movie for me. So to see anything else regarding the Hulk, I think, is just a bonus, really.
And saying on Avengers news, a lot's been said recently about Robert Downey Jr. Coming to the end of his contract. He's been speaking to Empire magazine about maybe this is Iron Man 3 is going to be his last movie. as Tony Stark. This is something I can't see. I don't know if it's a negotiating chip. He's trying to make it public that he wants a good deal. Get fanboys clamouring for Marvel and Disney to get him tied up for future instalments of the films. As far as I'm concerned, Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Tony Stark is the jewel in the Avengers crown. To lose him just seems ridiculous, and I also think it's not a good move for Downey. I mean, where would he go, leaving the best, most successful franchise currently in Hollywood? Would he go and make Due Date 2? There's no rush for me to run and see that. I know he's got Sherlock Holmes to fall back on, but I think he's got years left in him to play Tony Stark in the Avengers movies, and I think audiences that are on board at the moment would not be too happy to see the team reunited with a new character playing the central role of the Avengers. Really.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. I mean, I'd be really surprised if this was true. I don't think there's much juice left in the Sherlock Holmes franchise. Really, I think the second one, it was successful to a degree, but I don't think they're going to keep out churning those movies out. Maybe
I think there was a third part in the lineup.
Yeah, maybe to make a trilogy perhaps, but I think every single time I've ever seen an interview regarding Robert Downey Jr. talking about Iron Man, he's very proud of that role, and he's always enjoyed it and taking it on board. And I think he would. I think.
You would miss it, wouldn't you? I don't think he would be happy with his ego to see some other actor play the part.
Exactly. I mean, after so long of being at the spotlight like he was, Iron Man did really shoot him back to stardom again.
It'll resuscitate his career for sure.
So I think he'll be not just want to and be grateful to Marvel, but also just be grateful to himself to carry on playing this character that is so loved.
Yeah. And a last piece of news before we talk about the Oscars. I think we should mention the Oscars that were hosted last week. One last piece of movie news. Amazing Spiderman 2 has gone in production, and Chris Cooper, who stars in the Bourne movie, was he in the first Bourne movie?
He's been in the majority of films. I mean, he's a bit of a mongrel. He's been in he had a small part in The Town. He won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for the Nicolas Cage movie adaptation.
Yep.
Time to Kill. He's been in a Jarhead.
Yeah, but he's now being cast as Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn's son, in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which means that we might be seeing a little bit more Green Goblin, because that is who ultimately Norman Osborn becomes, the Green Goblin. But we've got Paul Giamatti playing the Rhino. We've got Jamie Foxx playing Electro. It's kind of like they're putting the pieces together to maybe put together a Sinister 6 movie. So maybe in the Amazing Spider-Man 3 we're going to get a Sinister 6 movie. But at the moment, all we can say is that Chris Cooper has signed on to play Norman Osborn along with Jamie Foxx's Electro and Paul Giamatti's Rhino.
It's excellent casting, Chris Cooper, because I mean, if you had to put someone next to Willem Dafoe in acting sense, I think the more you think about it, Chris Cooper is very like him in his acting abilities, and I think it's a good choice to cast. I mean, again, I'm not a fan.
He's an interesting actor, though, isn't he?
I'm not a fan of Marvel. I mean, I enjoy the movies, but I don't read comics, so all I can tell you is compare the Norman Osborn character to how Willem Dafoe played him in the original Spider-Man movie. So, but no, I think it's a good casting. They've got a good actor there, and I think he's not appreciated as much as he should be.
One final little note. We're going back into the 80s here now. Michael Schumacher's Flatliners, Oliver Platt, Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, where Kevin Bacon students are experimenting with death by allowing themselves to die for short periods of time before having their other fellow students bring them back to life, and the memories and the experiences they experience while dead then try and come into their actual real life. Apparently there's a mooted remake of Flatliners. Are you a fan of the original?
Yeah, I thought. I mean, it's not brilliant, but it was a good film to watch back in the 90s. It was quite an original film. I think actually a remake now, I don't think they'll put a great cast together for it, but I think
some young, hot and sexy.
Yeah, they'll get some up and coming actors, but they could, with the right tools, they could make it to be a good reboot. I think it's a film that could do with going a bit deeper into the story.
To the horror aspects of it.
Yeah, I think the original Flatliners is a great benchmark for any director wanting to take that story a bit further. With all the the excitement these days regarding supernatural tendencies, I think it will make good viewing, and I think it will be popular in the box office. Whether it'll be better than Schumacher's version, I don't know. It was Joel Schumacher that directed Flatliners, not Michael. He's the Formula 1 driver.
Yes, he is. Sorry about that, Joel Schumacher. Okay, any other movie news you want to mention before we talk about the Oscars quickly?
Let me think. No, not really.
Okay. And what did you think of the Oscars?
I thought, every year the Oscars usually gives out awards to people, and I think you have your favourites, and the Oscars, and obviously the Academy have their favourites, and they give the Oscars to people that you necessarily wouldn't think deserve them. But I think this year they got it right on a lot of people. I think, the biggest problem I had with the Oscars was Ben Affleck not being nominated for Best Director, though he has won in every category. In that category, in
the other
Screen
awards.
Guild Awards, the Golden Globes,
BAFTA.
the BAFTA, he's won them all for Best Director. So if he was nominated but didn't win, I would maybe understand. But to not be nominated is a bit silly. So the Academy have sort of embarrassed themselves this year with that. But I still think the Best Picture was deserved to go to Argo. I thought it was a fantastic film. Paul and I watched it together. We really enjoyed it.
But having said that, Rob, I speak to a lot of people who have seen it who do enjoy it, but don't think anything more than a good, solid movie. And when you listen to a lot of critics, they think that it'll be a pub quiz in years to come where you'll mention all the nominated films this gone year, and the winner was Argo, probably the least deserving of the nominated films.
Possibly, but like I say, for me it was the best film of the year. I've only seen they have a lot more movies in the Best Picture category. They used to have 5,
now it's
but
9
now
or
it's
10.
now 10, and I think I've seen about 7 of them. The only one, I think Les Mis I haven't seen, but if anyone was, so obviously that film might be better, but
Lincoln, Life of Pi, Silver Lining Playbooks,
Yeah,
Zero Dark 30.
Yeah, I watched Zero Dark 30. I thought it was okay. Life of Pi, I haven't seen yet, but from what I saw, Argo for me it was the best film of the year. And if it was the best film of the year to the critics, then it deserves to have the Best Picture Oscar. It may not be the best film of the last 10 years. It's not, but for this year, that's why they gave the Oscar to that film.
I liked it very much, and I do find it strange that you would award the best film, but the guy who actually put it all together and directed it would not actually be considered. But I do like Ang Lee, and I do like Life of Pi, and I think he did a great job directing that film. Actors wise, it was what you expected.
It's like an Oscar for him as well, for Ang Lee, Best Director.
But the third Oscar for Daniel Day-Lewis for Lincoln.
Made history.
And for the actress, I was quite surprised to see Jennifer Lawrence. I don't think that she did a bad part. I was just quite surprised. I think on the night it was quite a surprise to see her win Best Actress, like it was perhaps to see Ang Lee win Best Director. I think they could have gone anywhere, and the fact that they went to those was considered, because Spielberg was the go-to guy for Lincoln, wasn't he? He was the guy they were expected to win, and the lady who's in Amour, the only film of the Oscars that I haven't seen, I think she was expected to win Best Actress.
She was 86. She was 86 around the weekend of the Oscars. Yeah. Jennifer Lawrence Oscar, it was a great role for her.
Yeah.
I think it's her most testing role to date.
Yeah. It's no Hunger Games, is it?
No, but I think when you watch Bradley Cooper's performance, it's a much more stronger performance by Bradley. I think he really took in the role. It's quite sad because when you're an actor up against Daniel Day-Lewis, you really have no chance of winning anything. So you have to just sort of turn up at the ceremonies, smile, and just enjoy the night.
Accept the fact that you're second best.
Yeah, because Day-Lewis is what he is. He just
He's a tour de force.
Exactly. Yeah, and they made up for it by giving an Oscar to Jennifer Lawrence. She wasn't really up against any major competition. This year, you might have said that the actress
Jessica Chastain was earmarked to be.
I probably would say actually that was probably her biggest competition, because as much as a fan I'm not of Zero Dark 30, Jessica's role was very powerful. It was very much Claire Danes in Homeland, but a bit more stronger, because obviously it was going through true accounts, supposedly true accounts. And but yeah, I think the Oscars. Even though I'm not a fan of Django Unchained either, I was still happy to see Tarantino win an Oscar, because I think Tarantino has forgot it. He didn't. I thought he should have won an Oscar for his script writing for Inglourious Bastards. So to win one for Django Unchained has sort of balanced that out for me, I think.
And Christopher Waltz was amazing in the Django Unchained. Yeah. Well, the D-silent Django Unchained. Yeah. And if you've on YouTube and you want to look at Jesus Uncrossed, a Tarantino skit filmed for Saturday Night Live with Christopher Waltz playing Jesus, Brad Pitt's in it, Ving Rhames as Pontius Pilate. Very, very good. Very worth checking out. So make sure that you do. It's the Jesus, but obviously the D silent, uncrossed. Check it out. It's really funny. Rob, is there anything more?
No. Like I say, please keep watching.
Yep.
Every week we'll try and bring you
the hottest movie news,
a more varied subject, perhaps. But like Paul says, right now the hot topic is
comic books.
Comic books, they are the films that.
Man of Steel's getting some great early buzz at the moment. Apparently, it's meant to be a very, very good film. People are saying film of the year for Superman.
Are they reviewed?
Wow, there's some early reviews coming out. Man of Steel, and people are saying it's very, very, very good.
The trailer alone just is beautiful to watch.
But they reckon that the film is a lot more action-tastic than the trailer lets on.
But even better, because that's where Superman Returns went wrong.
Yep.
But no, I think, like I say, if you have any comments or want to leave some topics.
Yeah, leave some comments, guys. Yeah. If you're watching, leave some comments. Even if you're telling us that we're rubbish.
Yeah, good or bad, it's all positive feedback that we take from it.
Yeah.
But we'll try and bring you, we're going to try a few new things. As we said on the last podcast, we're going to try and talk about some of our own favourite films. We're going to start doing the top 5 again soon.
We're going to get more consistent.
Yeah. Life sometimes doesn't allow you to do the things you want to do, but we will try our best for you and make it give you much more of an exciting feeling to the programme. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is Brom.
Parry.
Out.
Peace.